And the home of the brave.
Game on!
Welcome to another edition of the Hit the Deck podcast, where we talk deck hockey, street hockey, ball hockey. It's hockey in sneakers. But hang on. If you guys are really fans of the show, what episode number is this?
69, dudes!
Excellent! Yes, indeed. This is episode 69 of the Hit the Deck podcast. However, as James and I are classy gentlemen, there will be no allusions made to activities found in less reputable parts of the internet. I make no such promises about the Miracle Mets, the moon landing, or Bryan Adams. Is that fair, James?
Very.
All right. Good. I'm glad you approve. We have consensus. How are you, pal?
I'm doing all right, thank you. How about yourself?
I am also well. Thank you.
Very cool.
Good. How has your week been since last we spoke?
Yeah, it was kind of a rough week, but hopefully everybody made it out of Hurricane Irma in one piece and wasn't as bad as they originally predicted. So, our heartfelt sympathies go out to everybody out there affected by that. And, of course, still the poor folks dealing with the remnants of Harvey and all of the rebuilding and getting their lives back together. And then on top of everything else, with September 11th coming by, just having to relive that horrible day always is a bring down. But happy that we're doing another podcast, so definitely we'll keep spirits up.
As am I. And it looks like Jose has kind of stalled out in the ocean, so it could be nothing, or it could come straight for us in a couple weeks. It's really, there's no way to tell at this point. So we'll just hope it kind of fizzles out there. And I think behind it is Katarina, something, I don't remember. It's a K.
Yeah, right. I know they go in alphabetical order, and I think they alternate between male and female names or some nonsense, but stay out in the seas. Don't bother anybody, please.
Seems like some kind of Eastern European female name. I just can't remember what it was.
Okay, well, I screwed up and called Irma Irene, and then you so politely corrected me off air, so thank you for that.
That's all right. Yeah, but it has been a week. So, it is good to get back into this thing that we're doing here. Hey, I wanted to ask you, actually, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. As we discussed off air, you are going to be finally getting back in the saddle for deck hockey this weekend with the LIQ, making your long-awaited return. And you had mentioned to me that you had been practicing. So would you mind letting us know what that routine entailed?
No, I'd be happy to. It's just so exciting to finally come back and be with you guys. I miss you guys so much, and
Sure.
I miss playing and everything, so it's been a long time. But the routine that I go through, at least we have the benefit of nice weather here in the tri-state area, so I just walk down to a park, which is, I guess, all told about a mile going to and from, so it's not too close, but not too far, so you get a nice little warm-up and cool-down on the way to and from. And it's a handball court, of course, so got to do that in homage of the LIQ. And I take a tennis ball and also a regular deck puck. And first I start warming up with the tennis ball to just practice passing and bouncing the ball off of the wall, and then trying to receive passing as well, because I have trouble with that in-game. So a tennis ball makes that much heavier and harder to do. And then I progress through the regular puck and take shots from the outside, and then pretend to go on breakaways, do stick handling drills. And the good thing with the handball court is there is a couple of lines that is basically the width of a goalie net. So I just try and pretend I'm shooting at the glove side or the blocker side or 5-hole and pick my shots. And there is a method to the madness. So a bunch of running around and practicing blocking shots and things of that nature. So that's my little routine, and hopefully it'll pay off. But I'm paying for it today, but in a good way.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, since this is a statistically important for no actual reason podcast, what say we jump on into our introductions for the evening?
Sounds good, sir.
All right. Well, then, in the traditional manner, let us go to our starting lineup. And for tonight's starting lineup, in goal, as ever, I am number 35, your American Rhino, Gary McComiskey, and of course, my classy co-host.
On defense, number 4, I'm James Sajazi.
Yes. And James, would you do us all the service of telling us what is on deck for this podcast?
Will do, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
NHL 18. If you're listening to this podcast when it's hot off the press, then the new EA game releases today on 9/15/17. Gary and I give some reasons why you need to shake down mommy and daddy to buy this game for you. Mr. American Rhino, if you would please.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
Perfect. That's using your head. Maple Leafs fan offers a unique reward for donating to Canada's Road Hockey to Conquer Cancer campaign. And decking around. In honor of the 69th episode of Hit the Deck, the American Rhino and I will go over some things that made the year 1969 so incredible. And no, we're not that old, but we always give credit where credit is due. And that's what's on deck.
Thank you, James.
My pleasure, sir.
Excellent. So I guess we start off with one of my favorite things, video games.
Yes, sir.
Them dang idiot box things, or as my mother-in-law refers to it, playing thumbs.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these games have come a long way and are pretty sophisticated nowadays. But I guess when it all boils down to it, she's right. It's playing thumbs.
I suppose. Although there are other fingers involved now.
Yeah, that's true.
Got your two kind of pointer fingers for the trigger, the shoulder buttons. So
Right. Yep.
most systems have those now. So that's it's moving up in the world.
Yes, sir. So are you in line to get NHL 18?
It's funny. I was actually talking to LIQ original Rob about this just over the weekend. And I told him that I was not, in fact, planning on getting this game. Although, now that I see some of the features, now I might have to rethink that. Because it does look pretty cool. Yeah,
and again, we suggest that you politely ask your mom and or dad to maybe, early Christmas present or late birthday present, whatever the case is. If your birthday's around this time, then win-win. But yeah, there are a lot of cool features on this game, and that's one of the benefits of EA Sports, as Gary and I have spoken about in podcasts past, is that they do give you plenty of reasons to buy the new game that comes out every year. And Mr. American Rhino, if you wouldn't mind kind of taking us through some of the new features of the NHL 18.
Yeah, well, first they have this this cool, what they call an arcade feature. It's 3-on-3, which is a pure old-fashioned video game fun, also known as overtime in the modern NHL, but that's okay. It is. There's a reason why they went to that format for overtime. It is fun. It's fun to watch, and I assume it's fun to play as well. It's more open, and it's a lot faster paced usually, and it's kind of less of a focus on solid defensive play, and it's a much more run and gun style. So it's fun for everybody but the goalies.
Exactly. I also heard that you have the option that you can play as mascots.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And also there's something referred to as the quote-unquote money puck, which if you score with that goal, I think you automatically get 4 goals at once or something like that. So
I don't know how on board I am with that, but
I don't know about that either.
That mascot thing, I tell you, reminds me of NBA Jam. Because did you play NBA Jam, James?
I did not know.
Oh, I had NBA Jam and NBA Jam Turbo Edition. And that game, one of the features that I guess it was famous for is unlockable characters. And they had all kinds of unlockable characters in this game, from like mascots that you could play as to like Hillary and Bill Clinton.
Oh gosh.
Like, everything in between. It's crazy. You'd find the code or whatever to unlock this character, and then it would be, some pop figure or some crazy character that you could play as on your team. And on one of the however many, 30 or whatever NBA teams that were in the game. So
That's
it was
pretty
neat.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a total arcade experience. It was 2-on-2 and basically no rules. You could just shove somebody and take the ball and go down and score. And, it was a lot of fun. That's how I did most of my scoring.
Excellent. Well, yeah, so maybe that's
two-handed shove. Thank you very much. And here we go. He's heating up. He's on fire. See, the second consecutive basket you would score, the announcer would say, he's heating up. And then if you scored a third consecutive basket, it would be, he's on fire. And then the ball would start flaming for as long as you had possession of it. And while you were on fire, you had unlimited turbo and better accuracy. So, you wanted to be on fire for as long as possible.
Okay, well, let's see if NHL 18 borrows from those things. And you can be an on-fire hockey player or mascot.
Although that might be counterproductive because it might melt the ice and cause you to go slower.
Yes, but then you end up playing deck hockey.
Hey, there you go. That's true. I'd like to see deck hockey mode in one of these games one time.
There you go. That's a great idea. Are you listening, EA?
Yeah. Probably not.
No.
I mean, maybe. If so, hey, we're still available for sponsorships.
Yeah.
We'll talk up your games.
That's right.
So that's the arcade mode. There's also, this is a little bit more in your wheelhouse, James, the defensive skill stick. So
I love the title of it. That sounds cool.
Yeah, they've had the offensive skill stick for years, which is basically one of your analog sticks on the controller. It allows you to manipulate the puck more deftly and more, I guess, naturally. So you, instead of just pressing a button to shoot, you can use the stick to figure out where the puck's going to go. With this defensive skill stick, the defenseman can, you can move the stick, the analog stick, and your defenseman's stick in the game will make the corresponding actions. So you can sweep the puck, or you can try to poke check. You can sweep your stick around to block the passing lanes, and then of course there's the regular defensive plays, and if you turn off penalties, you can do like the NBA Jam and just check people out of their shoes and board them and knock their head off and take the puck.
Oh boy, this sounds like a lot of fun.
And they leveled the playing field on the defense, and then they promptly tilted it again back to the offense because they gave them some new options too. So they can deke now. I guess they could deke before. You could deke before, but there's new deke options. And you can do tricky trick shots behind the legs and one-handed shots. You can be Carlos, basically. And toe drags. So you can do some pretty cool stuff with these new features in NHL 18.
Awesome.
But that is, in fact, probably not the coolest part. The coolest part is that, as you know, James, we are welcoming a new team into the NHL this year, the the Vegas Golden Knights. There is no loss in their name. Alas, they have rejected those three letters. But hey, it's their loss. Yeah. But so I was actually talking to Rob about this when we were talking about the game. He was telling me about this feature. And so along with the Vegas team coming, you have the option of increasing the total team count to 32 and adding your own new custom team, which you can draft players for. You can pick the city that the team is going to go in, and it is not for once limited to the United States. You can actually pick a European city to house this 32nd team. You can build the arena, you can design your uniform and the logo, and you can create your own mascot, which is again, pretty awesome. And apparently you can play as the mascot in 3-on-3 arcade mode. So, choose wisely.
It all comes full circle, man. That is really awesome. Thank you, sir.
That is really awesome. And as I said, I might have to rethink this thing because I was not planning on getting it, but now we'll see.
Yeah, they did a great job. There's a lot of new bells and whistles out there, and the gameplay itself is always a lot of fun. It's really as realistic as it gets, and the physics that they put into it is fascinating, which we have talked about in the past too. So that is just, I wish I was back in school so I had many hours to just devote to doing all of that in-depth stuff with the game itself. That's pretty awesome.
I wonder if you can make a mascot for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
And if you were going to do so, I wonder if you would pick the gentleman we're about to talk about.
Very well done, sir. Yes, speaking of virtual reality in a certain way, there is a Maple Leafs fan who has become quite famous from the last playoff appearance of the Leafs versus the Capitals. And his name is Jason Maslakau, a.k.a. Dart Guy.
Now, see, that sounds dangerous to me. I wouldn't think they'd let him in the arena. That's he just wing darts at the opposing players, and that's why he's famous?
Thank you for bringing that up, because I was curious why he was called Dart Guy.
Yeah.
So the reason why he's called Dart Guy is that apparently Canadians refer to cigarettes as darts.
The heck you say?
I just found that out maybe a couple of hours ago. But this super fan, he painted his face with the leaf on his face in blue with the white background. He has a mohawk, and his hair was shaved into it around the sides, with the mohawk, but it's shaved out on the back of his head, "Go Leafs Go."
Yes.
And he even dyed his beard blue, and he had an unlit cigarette in his mouth.
Yeah.
So for some reason or another, he became kind of famous. He's a hero in Toronto now, and he has his own Twitter feed and Facebook page, as you can imagine, and stuff like that. So he has become a cult hero, and he even was brave enough to go down to Washington for a couple of road games too, and support his beloved Maple Leafs. But he had a cigarette in his mouth, and what happened was, somehow or other, I tried to find out where and how he did this, but he made a 3D bust of himself. It all made up in the face paint and with the cigarette hanging out of his mouth, because that's the picture that became a meme, and whatever you refer to that as.
I believe it's a meme.
A meme, thank you.
Sure.
And made its rounds through the internet, and people would just superimpose his picture on different things, usually Leafs related. And that's the 3D printed out bust that he has of himself.
You can do a lot of. Sorry, James. You can do a lot with 3D printers these days. They've become very, very advanced. I think they're on the verge, and I'm not kidding about this. I think they're on the verge of being able to 3D print organs for people. So that's I think that's still in kind of like the very early kind of testing phases, but yeah, that's a breakthrough that's not far away. So that's pretty exciting.
Again, Star Trek comes through. It's a replicator now, ladies and gentlemen. That is amazing.
It's not far off. Yeah.
Wow. And 3D printers have been around for a few years, and they've already done so many great things in helping people, like making hands and workable hands and things, and for people that have lost their hands or limbs and stuff. It's really fascinating, but that is amazing. But exactly, this guy, I guess, I don't know if he had his own 3D printer or some connection with stuff like that, because there are miniatures of the bust that you could get on your own. But the cool thing is the authentic one is he's offering it up for an auction. And the auction is Road Hockey to Conquer Cancer. And this is a Canadian charity that features 150 teams among multiple leagues, and the road games only for some reason. So they sponsor the road teams, and along with celebrity appearances, musical acts, and fan contests. And this year, apparently it's an annual event. This year, it will be held on September 23rd in Toronto, and it goes from dawn to dusk.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So Mr. Dart Guy is going to offer the bust. I think there's two of them. So two fans, if they win the most money donated, could go home with their own very own Dart Guy. And also Brendan Shanahan of the Maple Leafs. He is the president of the Maple Leafs. He actually guided Dart Guy to quit smoking. And that also was a way for him to raise money for the charity, which donates all of the money to the Princess Margaret Cancer Center. And so far, Dart Guy has raised $5,000 $700 on his way to the $10,000 goal. So good luck to him. It's a great cause, and you got to love hockey.
Yeah, God bless. But wait a minute. You're telling me Shanny de-darted him? Now he's just Guy.
Excellent point.
Come on, man. That's you've stolen the guy's identity. You've probably added years onto his life, but you've stolen his identity. What does he have to live for? I mean, I guess the Maple Leafs, presumably. One presumes, but and friends and family, and I believe he's married. So yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yes,
I assume he has a wife and possibly children to live for as well. But really, why are you taking his dart?
Yeah, I'm curious to know why they refer. Well, we won't even go into what the Europeans refer to, or at least English refer to cigarettes as. But
probably
dart,
for the best. Yes.
Yeah, I don't get it. But whatever. You're right, though. They're taking his identity away. And if you quit smoking, I'd imagine that having an unlit cigarette in your mouth would be torture.
Yeah, probably. This Road Hockey to Conquer Cancer charity, we play street hockey, and another word for street is road. So are we playing road hockey? Are we, is this something that we should be a part of?
Yeah, that's a good question. We will have the link up on our Facebook page and Twitter accounts as well for everybody listening out there. There is a Twitter feed specifically for this that the Dart Guy has. He has his own Facebook page, and it's just devoted to the Conquer Cancer campaign. So you can find out there. I know that it's all Canadian and it's based in Canada and all that stuff. So I don't know about the differentiation in the monetary funds and things. I don't know if the American dollar is more money than whatever they're using up in Canada or whatever the case is. But
I believe they also use the dollar, just their own version.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm very worldly. But it's at least worth looking into. So I don't think that they'd have a problem if you want to be generous. And maybe if we could even combine funds, and if there's a Maple Leafs fan around here that we know, I'm sure they won't get along very well with our Islander fans because of that rivalry over the few years. But
go Leafs, go! Go Leafs, go!
I don't think Brad's going to talk to us ever again unless he's bashing us over the head with a hockey stick. It's bad enough we're Ranger fans. I really don't want to push our luck. So.
They also in Canada they have the loonie, which is I believe a coin. I don't know what it's worth. I don't know how many loonies to $1, but that's I think they also have the toonie, but I don't know if that's still a thing. But so Canada.
That's right. Yeah, so that's a good point. We're playing deck hockey and we're going to get together and stuff like that. So might as well put it to a good cause, and we'll have our own Dart Guy, or like you said, just Guy.
Yes.
Parade around.
Yeah, we already have a buddy in our league. I guess we could have a Guy easily enough. And since we already seem to be decking around on this podcast, we might as well segue into our last topic.
Yes, sirree. As Gary alluded to before so well, that this is Hit the Deck number 69. It's been
me and my buddy in a 69 podcast. It was the podcast episode 69. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, thank you. I completely forgot about the Bryan Adams song.
Yeah.
And going over some great things about the year 1969, even though I think that came out in 83 or 84 or whatever the case was. But as Mr. Adams said, that it just sounded really cool. And the summer of 69 was so legendary that he might as well just write a song about it. I think he was right, too, because it sounds much better than the summer of 82 or whatever. But
yes, right, yeah.
Not that it was a bad summer, but still,
I guess. I can't think of anything memorable that happened in 82. I'm sure some people were born. Yeah, I turned 2. Yes, that is a milestone to be celebrated, to be sure.
Yeah, I remember, I was 4, so I do remember Italy winning the World Cup that year, so that was pretty exciting for us, so that was cool. But anyway, yeah, but with the connection of the 1969 year and we being big Mets fans and stuff, and my favorite car of all time is the 1969 Charger, so we just decided to pay homage to the great year, and it's just amazing how many, when you really think about it, how many awesome things happened in that year. It's astounding. So we're going to list them for you.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, the Mets, I guess, first and foremost, given who you're, I was going to say who you're talking to, but you're not probably doing much talking. You're mainly listening to James and I talk, which, I mean, we really don't let you get a word in edgewise, which is kind of rude of us. If you'd like to, we'll tell you just in a little while how you can contribute to the show if you so choose. But for now, you're just going to have to kind of shut up and listen, I guess. You know, no offense. But yeah, so the Miracle Mets, I mean, they really were. There's a reason they were called the Miracle Mets. You know, you got to believe they went from worst to first in a month. Like they went from being a last place team to winning the World Series in a month, which is just incredible. And, you know, if you're not familiar with the Mets, I'm sure you've probably heard of the Miracle Mets, even if you're not a Mets fan, because they became a very iconic team. They've been featured in a number of motion picture cinematic performances. I don't know, like, do I work for the Academy all of a sudden? I don't know why I'm being so formal. They've been in a bunch of movies, a couple off the top of my head I can think of. They played a major part in the movie Frequency, which they recently made a TV series based on. And they also played a not insignificant part in Men in Black 3. And, you know, those were movies that came out, well, Men in Black came out, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, probably. And the Frequency movie came out, I don't know, maybe a decade before that. I don't remember exactly, but like
in 2000, I believe, yeah.
Oh, was it that far ago? Yeah, okay. So, but still, that's, you know, 30 years after it happened. So obviously it made an impression.
Exactly, yeah. That's just so legendary. Great point, too. Just the fact that how they made an incredible comeback and won 100 games and then just rode that momentum to win the World Series. And I kind of resent when people look at it and say, oh, gosh, they were such underdogs in one aspect, because the pitching was astounding and the coaching was second to none. I mean, Gil Hodges, you've heard me go gaga over Mr. Hodges many times, and deservedly so, just a great man. But, you know, when you have Seaver and Kuzman out there as 1-2 punches and a young Nolan Ryan and Gentry out there, that's pretty incredible. And they had the great pitching, which we got a taste of that to the modern Met fan, and we'll get back to the hockey stuff in a minute. But for the younger generation, with 2015, we had great pitching, but we didn't have that good a defense, and that really, I say we because Mets fans, excuse me, but the Mets didn't have as good a defense, and that's what cost them. On the contrary, in 1969, they had a good offense, but they had excellent defense and outstanding pitching. And to take out the Baltimore Orioles that were just a juggernaut and went on to win the World Series at least 1 or 2 more times during that era, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you look up and down that lineup, they had nothing. And Earl Weaver himself, one of the most legendary managers of all time, but they were just stacked up and down, many Hall of Famers on that team. But exactly, just amazing what they did in one season all by itself, and coming around and winning the World Series and just taking the city and the country by storm.
I've lived through this twice now, James. This thing with the Mets where they have supposedly a pitching staff of phenoms that's going to carry us to glory, to the promised land, and then flame out spectacularly twice, James. In the mid-90s, there was Generation K with Bill Pulsifer and Jason Isringhauser and Paul Wilson. And now, you know, obviously they went nowhere fast. And then now, you know, Harvey and Syndergaard and DeGrom and Wheeler and Murderers Row, and all of them collectively had their arms fall off at the same time. It's like I'm a Mets fan. All right, so you shouldn't have to share our pain. I'm sorry. We should move on.
You and me both, brother. But yeah, getting back to some good accomplishments back in 1969.
Yes. In the in 1969, it felt like the Miracle Mets. The fans felt like they went straight to the moon when they won the World Series, and they were in good company because 69 was also the year that NASA first set foot on the moon. And it was one small step for man, one giant leap for this podcast, because it gives us something else for us to talk about and make a meal out of this segment, which is pretty thin on the first glance.
Yeah, again, we're just celebrating that it's our 69th edition of it. We've stuck around for this long.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, that's just incredible, especially when you look at the history of the heroes that were involved in the Apollo 11 successful mission going to and from the moon, which is astounding in the worst possible conditions that there could be. And I've heard it said, scientists saying this nowadays, that the amount of technology that was in the Apollo 11 capsule wasn't even nearly as much as in, forget about a cell phone, but not as much technology as in like a digital watch or something.
Yeah, or a calculator.
Yeah. It's just really absolutely mind-numbing when you think about that, where they actually had physical switches and analog things, and they had to figure things out on their own. It was just unbelievable, and using the gravity and rotation of the moon and the Earth, and unbelievable. So you're talking almost 50 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the time, like back then, the iPhone 10 that Apple just rolled out for $1 million. You think about the capabilities of that piece of technology, and in order to replicate that amount of processing power in the 1969, they would probably require an entire floor of a building to house all the computer equipment with the magnetic tape reel-to-reels and the vacuum tubes and whatever else they used in order to actually physically replicate what we can do now with microchips. And it's just insane. It's crazy. And they didn't have a room or a floor full of space for the space capsule. They had a tiny area that was, I don't know, maybe the size of your bathroom if you have a small bathroom. And they had to fit not only all the computer stuff, but they also had to fit the 3 crew members and the physical hardware that was keeping them alive.
To tie it into hockey, do you think it was about the size of a penalty box?
Well, I've never been in a penalty box, James, because I am a classy player, and also goalies don't go in the box. But we are a privileged breed, my friend. But yeah, that's probably a fair comparison. It probably is not much bigger than a penalty box.
All right, cool.
And that's it's just what we, and by we I mean mankind, I don't mean James and I, but what we are able to accomplish is just, if you take a step back and look at it, sometimes it's mind-boggling what the human mind can achieve when they're put to the task.
Exactly right. And that's one good thing about healthy competition. And the other thing too is that I think, what was it? Maybe it was the, 1960 or very early 60s when President Kennedy laid down the gauntlet for
Ask
NASA.
not what you can do for your... No, wait, that's not it. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Yeah, that's right. That's what he said.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure.
He laid down the challenge for NASA to get a man or men on the moon before the decade was out, and they did, and absolutely amazing. And just like Gary said, to put it in perspective, the technology was like, compared to nowadays, it was like sticks and bear skins, it was really amazing.
Really. It really is. It's, it's a testament to good old ingenuity and hard work. And, good on them. Unless you're one of these moon landing deniers who think that they filmed it all in a studio. In which case, I don't know what to tell you.
Did you see the Mythbusters episode when they completely proved that it was real?
I did.
It was without a shadow. Yeah. Okay, just making sure. But exactly right.
You know what's a crime, really? It's or not literally a crime, but a sin, that the tapes, the original film reels that they took that footage from the moon with, are lost. They've just been lost to history. And all we are left with is the tapes of the downlink that the networks got to broadcast, which is a much, much lower quality than the actual film that was taken on the moon.
Oh, wow, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They just,
Maybe,
nobody knows what happened to them. They're just gone.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's some jealous Russian guy that holds a grudge, maybe.
Yeah, either that or, funding was tight at NASA and they just wrote over them for, I don't actually, they can do that with magnetic tape. You can't do that with film. So I retract that statement. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay, well, I'm sticking with my conspiracies.
All right. Yeah, I'm down with that.
Thank you.
Honestly, they're probably like in the vault of some Russian oligarch or some like African ivory trader or something.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Hey, check out my treasure.
You ain't kidding, man.
With the lost masterpieces and the Fabergé eggs that went missing and all that stuff.
There you go. But speaking of modern technology and flying things, the New York the New York Jets.
Yes, it's not. This is much less well remembered than the Miracle Mets, but that championship that the Mets won, that was not the first championship team that Shea Stadium hosted that year.
Very good point. You're absolutely right. The New York Jets.
Yeah, prior to the Mets winning the World Series in 1969, the Jets, who also played at Shea Stadium, won Super Bowl III.
Yes, sir. And I believe it was the day before my father's birthday, too. So he being a huge Jet fan, that was one heck of a present. So we're still waiting for another one. But I kind of don't really care about the NFL right now. I mean, they've really shown, some of their players have really shown their true silliness and ignorance. And I'm glad the Jets stink this year because my dad and I just aren't watching on principle. But anyway, back in 1969, they had a real league and they put the AFC on the map. And Broadway Joe Namath will love you forever, man. And that defense was astounding as well.
Yeah.
So that was pretty amazing. But exactly, great point. Shea Stadium was the home of champions. And long live Shea, but anyway.
Wait, hang on a second. I want to savor that sentence for a second because I don't know if anyone's ever said it before, and I don't know if anyone will ever say it again. Shea Stadium was the home of champions. Okay, carry on.
All right. Getting back to the hockey point of view, and thank you for bearing with us, everybody, if you're still sticking around. Some of the 1968-1969 NHL season highlights. Going into that season, no player had ever scored 100 points before, but after that season, 3 players did. Led by Phil Esposito of the Bruins, he had 49 goals and 77 assists for a new record at that time of 126 points. Of course, Mr. Gretzky took care of that. Bobby Hull was second, but he had then the record for most goals in a season at 58. Again, Mr. Gretzky. And then Gordie Howe ended up third with 103 points. So he was just 4 points off of Bobby Hull. So that was pretty amazing in
nice.
The season for the NHL. Over in pop culture, and again, Gary and I have shown our love of the Beatles. They played the Apple Records building on top of the Apple Records building, which is legendary and one of the coolest things ever to happen in music. Of course, the Beatles were always at the fore of that. And the album Abbey Road was released as well in 1969.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is, of course, a classic album for, so many great hits.
And speaking of streets...
Yeah, there you go. I wonder if they play Abbey Road hockey to conquer cancer.
Another street I'm thinking of, though, that's a great idea. Something premiered in 1969, which is right up your alley.
1969 also saw the premiere of Sesame Street, which, and I don't know if they play Sesame Street hockey. I think I would like to see that, although nowadays they'd probably shove Elmo down our throats, and Elmo's an all-star. Cookie Monster would probably eat the puck.
Yeah, right.
It reminds him of, He's like Veggie Monster now. He eats,
What?
he likes cookies, but he also, they're part of a balanced meal. So he also eats fruits and vegetables. So he'd probably think it was an orange or something. I mean, he'd eat it because he eats anything. He'd probably eat the sticks and the helmets too if you gave him the opportunity. My sister likes to say he has pica, but anyway. So yeah, Oscar would be poo-pooing every play and heckling people from his can. Big Bird, I don't see him being very good, honestly. He's very tall, but he's not very fast, and he doesn't react quickly. So
Sounds like a great ref.
I think Bert and Ernie would probably be decent at it. Bert would be okay. He'd probably be a defenseman or something, and Ernie would definitely be a forward, but he would mess around a lot, and he would he'd be doing like trick plays and hiding on the bench, and like he'd mess around just as much as he would score. But he probably would score because he seems like the kind of guy with that sneaky talent that comes out of nowhere and you underestimate him. But
how about Grover? Would you go Super Grover or regular Grover?
Regular Grover, definitely, because Super Grover always seems to get his helmet stuck over his head. Or like get tangled up in his cape, or regular Grover at least is occasionally competent.
This is an excellent assessment.
Honestly, I think I would make Telly the referee.
Ah, good one, very good.
Telly Monster, yeah,
okay.
he's my choice for referee. I don't think Snuffleupagus. Maybe Snuffy could be the goalie. I'd make Snuffy a goalie.
So he's not imaginary anymore.
No, he's legit. He has a family.
Okay. Oh, he does?
Yep.
Okay, that's good for him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mother, father, little sister. He's pretty real.
Okay. May I have a recommendation if they were to do play-by-play? I have a great guy who could do play-by-play for
Go ahead.
Sesame Street Hockey. Guy Smiley.
Yes, Guy Smiley. And I think Kermit the Frog would be the sideline reporter.
Oh, yes. Oh, I can't... Sorry about that. Yeah, I can't forget Kermit. I forgot he was the only guy that was able to do both, right?
Yeah,
Sesame
I think
Street and
he was
Muppets.
the only one that crossed over, I think. Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's really special. So maybe Guy could be the color guy or something.
As long I think Kermit is like the he's the Pierre Maguire of the Sesame Street Hockey League. I think he's between the benches. It's, hi ho, Kermit the Frog here. I would not want the two-headed monster anywhere near this game, if I'm being honest. I see nothing good coming from that. The Count, obviously, he's, I think the Count is probably the color guy.
Oh, you wouldn't put him as the scorekeeper?
I think he would get carried away. One shot, 2 shots, 3 shots, and every time, they'd have to call the game for Thunder and Lightning because he just,
How about if he's going to announce the last minute of play?
1 minute remaining. 59, 58, 57. Yeah, that would also, with the penchant for counting on Sesame Street, it's that could be dangerous.
I want to see this. I really want to see this bad.
Yeah. In the, what is it? Christmas Eve on Sesame Street, it opens, it's not hockey, but it opens with them ice skating at a skating rink. So they're halfway there, really.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, and then they take the subway home. So.
Oh, God bless.
Yeah.
I hope they didn't get stuck like we do every day.
Yeah, well, it was a different time.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I like this. I want to see it too. I think we have something here.
Excellent stuff. And just to close the book on 1969 and the greatness that it was, and celebrating our 69th edition of Hit the Deck, the Godfather book was published. And again, for me, I don't know what was in the water that year, but every car was incredible that came out of America that year. including the 69 Charger, the Corvette, the Boss 429 for you Mustang fanatics, the GTO Judge, the Trans Am, and the Camaro ZL1, just to name a few. Just every car looked awesome. The performances were insane. The sheer muscle power and the transmissions. And they didn't handle that great, but we didn't care because we just wanted to go down a straightaway fast as possible and worry about everything else later. But amazing stuff for the guys over in the American car companies back then. So well done.
Yeah, I'm about as far from a gearhead as you're going to find. So my wife is a big fan of cars. So, you're going to have to take the lead on this one. I'll take your word for it.
Okay, yeah, and to this day, these are some of the most collectible cars in the world. So
awesome.
Last minute remaining in the podcast.
Thank you, Pops. All right, well, I guess we've reached another milestone, the end of another Hit the Deck podcast. And which episode of Hit the Deck was that again? I already forgot.
69, dudes!
Right. It was that one. Yes. Thank you for that. So anyway, as it is the close of episode 69, with this episode, as with every episode, I would like to very much thank Pops for being the voice of the podcast. I would like to thank Anthony Sajazi for providing music to the podcast, the LIQ for sound effects. I would like to thank you, of course, for listening to this podcast, especially that last segment where we really, I think might have hurt ourselves reaching on this, relevance to the podcast. But thank you for making it this far. We
defensive skill stick, whatever that is.
Yeah, right. Yes, we genuinely do appreciate it. So thank you again for that. If you would like to contact us and tell us whether or not you think that this was a good idea, please feel free to do so. Email us at hitthedek@gmail.com. Deck is DEK. You can just look up at the title of the podcast and just that at gmail.com. And you can also reach us on Facebook. We are at Hit the Deck on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter. You can tweet at us at Hit the Deck Pod. Add that pod at the end, or you will get some rap album account or something. I don't know, whatever. But it's not us. So Hit the Deck Pod and YouTube. I want to mention YouTube now. You can, of course, comment on any of our videos, but that's not why I'm bringing it up. I'm bringing it up because I have a good feeling. I'm feeling confident, in fact, that if you subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Hit the Deck Podcast, I think it is actually on YouTube, then this weekend you might get a notification that a new video has gone up. If you're lucky and if you're good. So, keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, if you've not already done so, subscribe to this very podcast in its audio form, and you will get it as soon as it drops every single week without having to go look for it. That's the kind of quality service, the white glove service that we provide here on this podcast, because we are classy gentlemen. And you can go ahead and subscribe on iTunes, which is now Apple Podcast, on Stitcher, on Spotify, or really anywhere where you get your podcasts from. That is my tip for you. So you feel free to do that. James, is there anything that you would care to add?
Yeah, just to follow your lead, thank you for your patience for listening out there. And we do promise we have many deck hockey topics to make up for on next week's, or at least next edition of Hit the Deck. So please be patient. Thank you.
Yeah, so we are looking forward to next week. Next week's going to be a fun one. So thank you once again for hanging in there. And I just, of course, like to remind you that whether you are out playing deck hockey, whether you're driving around in a muscle car, whether you're watching your favorite sports team that's not hockey related, whether you're playing NHL 18, or whether you are going viral, painting your face and sticking a cancer stick in your mouth, I would like to remind you, urge you, implore you to recall that it is deck hockey. Don't be that guy. Thanks, everybody. Bert probably would make a better official. He's pretty timid. Maybe a linesman. He'd probably make a good linesman.
That's a good point, because he does have the stripes already, so just turn him black and white. So
That's true, yes.
He's all set.